gotten some comments and questions about putting drywall on a shower, so I wanted to clarify that I'll be waterproofing the entire space using the Guru system. I have no affiliation with this company, just looking forward to trying a new brand. I wanted to avoid having the grout lines of the shower wall tiles line up with the niche in such a way that it looked like it was an afterthought. I'm using the Cyclone tile leveling system by Ruby during the install, but they came in handy during the layout step as well. They held the tiles in place so I could get an accurate location of where the grout lines would be, and from here I was able to finish framing out the niche. Time will tell if this actually works. After getting the shower pan in place, it was time to install the curb. It's basically a 4" by 5" piece of high-density foam covered in a waterproof membrane. It comes in 2 pieces for the kit I bought, so I cut it to size and connected the 2 parts using waterproof sealant. I secured it in place using lag bolts and then covered it in thin set and a piece of membrane. This Guru kit has been great for a DIYer. The next step in waterproofing this shower was to seal up the inside and outside corners. The Guru system I'm using offers these pre-made, which makes installation a lot easier. I started with the inside corner on this curb and secured it in place using thin set, pressing it in place with my putty knife and small trowel. I then did the same for the outside corner. Doing it in this order allows the water to roll down the membrane across the seams and down toward the drain. Next step is to waterproof the walls using the water stop membrane. Our bathroom tile finally came in, so we can get started tiling the shower. I'm starting with the floor, and after watching a bunch of videos from actual professionals, I decided to try making a template. I don't know why, but we had a bunch of these wooden yardsticks lying around, so I used them to make it. It came together pretty easily, and the most important part here was making sure the drain was in the right position. I then laid the tiles out on a flat surface and lined up the template accordingly. After making a template of the shower pan, I laid out the tiles on a flat surface and traced the outline and drain location. I also numbered each sheet to keep them straight. Since these are mosaic sheets and my tile saw is old and cheap, I used my grinder with a diamond blade to cut the tiles. This method creates a lot of dust, but it's quick and effective. I then dry fit the tiles to ensure the template and drain placement were accurate. Stay tuned to see how I cut out the drain. With the tile laid out and drain placement determined, I used a grinder with a diamond mesh blade to cut out a rough hole for the drain. I snuck up on the corners, cutting both the top and bottom of the tiles to get as close as possible without screwing up or having to start over. I then broke the waste pieces away, and since the corners are rounded, I used a diamond chamfering cone to grind away everything up to the drain outline. It was a little tricky and tedious, but I took my time and it turned out great. Like and follow for more DIY videos like this. The shower glass panels are gonna come up and over this pony wall, so it needs to be tiled. It's an odd shape, and instead of trying to outline it using the pre-made bullnose pieces, I decided to attempt one solid custom tile. I made a rough template using a piece of cardboard and transferred that to one of the 12 by 24 pieces. I then used a diamond grinding wheel and slowly worked my way around the outline, being extra careful around the intricate corners and angles. With the rough shape cut out, I took it back to the pony wall and marked where any adjustments were needed, again being as careful as I could. I did this 4 or 5 times, slowly sneaking up on the final shape. With the outline complete, I rounded over all the edges so it would match the bullnose details in other parts of the shower. And as is usually the case with a DIYer like me doing a complicated tile shower, it's not perfect. But once this is grouted and caulked and the glass panels are installed, I think it's going to look really sharp. Let me know in the comments if you think I should have done this differently, and like and follow for more DIY videos like this one. I've talked about these Cyclone tile spacers before, but the more I use them, the more I like them. Here they're helping me get a perfect outline around the shower window because they hold the tiles in place perfectly spaced and allow me to find out exactly where my cuts need to be. The yardsticks are there to get a perfect square inside the window cavity, and I'll address that more in a future post. This isn't sponsored and I didn't get these for free, but I highly recommend them or something similar if you're a noob tiler like me. In a previous post, I referenced these yardsticks inside the window frame, so now I wanted to address why they're there. Since the window cavity isn't square, I needed a reference to mark the tiles outlining the window. I made the yardsticks level and plumb using shims and tape and used my laser level to extend those lines and project them onto the tiles. The corner pieces were the most important to get accurate, and the top couple of pieces in particular were a little tricky because the layout left a really thin and fragile piece to deal with. Luckily, neither of them broke and my window's square. I'm tiling the walls around the niche first to ensure the grout lines are level from wall to wall. I needed a ledger board to hold the tile above the niche, but I didn't want to screw it in place and puncture the membrane. My woodworker friends will appreciate this. I put some painter's tape on the membrane and the ledger board and then used super glue between the tape to secure the wood to the membrane. This held the tile in place while the thin set dried, and once it dried I removed the wood and the tape, leaving the membrane perfectly intact. The back of our shower meets the ceiling at about a 30-degree angle, so running the tiles straight up to the ceiling will leave a huge, ugly gap to caulk. I used the level to follow the trajectory of the tile face and to get the correct measurement, and then knocked off the back edge with a diamond blade. I then installed the tiles and was left with a minimal gap to caulk. This is by far my largest tile job, and I've made a ton of mistakes, but I'm trying to pay attention to little details like this so it looks as good as possible. Let me know in the comments what you think. I made a mistake laying out this section of tile, and since I get the sense that a lot of my followers are DIYers like me, I wanted to share how I fixed it. These tiles come in 12-inch by 15-inch mosaic sheets, and they're held in place by a mesh backing, which is easily cut with a utility knife, so the rows can be rearranged if needed. That mesh holds the tiles perfectly spaced, so I spent a bit more time making sure the grout lines were all the same, but that still took way less time than cutting a new sheet. Let me know what you think of this niche with the glass shelves and mosaic background. Well, this niche is finally done, and I'm not gonna lie, it was way harder to tile than I thought it would be. Making sure the grout lines all lined up at the top was super tricky and took me about an hour of making micro adjustments to make it look right, and there's still a bunch of imperfections. Painter's tape and wedge spacers are probably the most useful things to have around when doing a job like this. A couple more tiles to lay, and then I'm finally moving on to grout. My goodness, the last piece of tile in this shower is finally set. I framed out the window using bullnose tiles and needed to miter the corners, which was tedious but resulted in a really nice finished look in our opinion. As these are going up, you'll notice a small gap between the tile and the window, and that's going to be filled by the trim that will hold the frosted sheet of tempered glass in place. I'll show that in more detail in a future post, but for now this shower is tiled and it is time for grout. I decided to use an epoxy grout for the bathroom floor, mostly for its ability to repel stains and clean up easily. I had researched a bunch on how to do it, and I got some great advice from the folks at the tile shop, but I'm not gonna lie, it was a pain to clean up. Imagine trying to wipe off really thick and oily peanut butter. It took forever to get the tiles clean, and the best advice I can share is to have multiple buckets of clean water and new sponges ready to go because they go bad quick. It turned out great, but it was a ton of work. After a long day of laying most of these massive porcelain tiles, I was looking forward to the satisfaction of kicking these cyclone spinners off their tabs. Luckily, most of them came off without a problem, and we could get back to using the bathroom on a daily basis until I had time to do the closet. Fast forward a couple of days and I found that time, but some poor planning on my end led me to not having enough tabs to use the cyclone system again, so I had to run to Lowe's and decided to try these monster clips. The concept is similar, but they were kind of a pain to click into place, but that might be because of my weak and tiny hands. Luckily, they worked fine enough and kicked off easily. The next step is to grout this floor and then throw up some finishes and some trim and then paint the ceiling, and this 10-month project will be done. If you've been following along this entire time, I can't thank you enough, and I hope it's been beneficial for you.